Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Monster Talk Live. My name is Matthew Baxter.
And I'm Karen Stolzner.
And I'm Blake Smith, coming alive.
Thank you for joining us tonight. And now the topic of tonight's show, it's kind of a little bit disjointed, but very, very, very specific at the same time. So, yeah, but how creepy Blake is. But the topic is haunted hands. And we have Blake to thank for this because...
So if it sucks...
That's right. Well, I mean, you know, to be fair, there's lots of monsters that we've talked about, but some of these are very specifically, there's like in pop culture, there's some very specific hand related horror. So I was thinking about like, go ahead. Yeah.
This is not the kind of thing you normally think about, but I mean, this is our Halloween show. So we wanted something spooky and haunted and ghostly. And the more we thought about it, the more we thought this topic is actually a good one. And there are lots of haunted hands in various stories. And
also an opportunity to
legends.
It's a good chance to give regular monsters the finger. So that's, yeah.
Yeah. Indeed.
I'm grasping here. Sorry.
There'll be puns aplenty tonight, I think.
That's probably true. Nailed it. Okay, so let's get this joint started. All right.
Okay, so one thing I do want to say right up front that this one may be a little bit different. Blake, if you need to send me any images or anything, let me know, because I don't know if you want me to take them out of the dock or whatever.
Well, the only thing because the I have some geographical information, but the monster I'm going to be discussing or ghost or whatever it is has never been photographed, never been. In fact, the original story about it's called Unseen Hands. So I think this will be a studio of the mind. You'll use your imagination. So yeah.
Okay,
so,
fair enough.
So you've got a good handle on this one.
I do. It's got
don't you start.
I like that. That had a nice ring to it. I like that.
Well, I will start then with the story of the San Antonio haunted railroad tracks. And so I think, Blake, you're familiar with the story. And Matt, you actually did an investigation of the site with me maybe about 10 years ago now.
Yeah. You know, and the thing is I'm just about ready to share my screen there for a graphic. And I thought maybe I would share this graphic first because dang it, it's just so darn cool.
Oh, that is cool. Yeah.
Yes, we were just contacted by a listener of the show, Mark Stanbrook, and he created this fantastic Halloween-y themed illustration of us. And so, yeah, we're really excited about this. And we will definitely be using this for advertising and other things. And so thank you very much, Mark. We really appreciate this.
I like the style. It's a nice style.
Me too.
It's cool.
I think it really captures sort of what we look like without being super literal. I'm not usually a big fan of like caricatures, that sort of thing, but I like this. It's very fun.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is.
Yep. Yeah. And it looks like, Karen's slightly trying to lean away from Blake, like he just
Which is
punned.
true. So there's some truth to it. Yeah.
Do you think that like the cloudy stuff at the bottom is ground fog or maybe like farts? It's farts, isn't it? No, it's awesome. But I like how there's some real classic monsters in the background. You got the Kentucky Goblins and Mothman and all kinds of
UFOs.
Yep. Nessie and yeah, it's good. It's very good. All right. So yeah,
someone's been paying attention. I like that. So
yeah.
So
definitely.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the San Antonio Railroad tracks. And so this is a location, it's kind of south of San Antonio. And it's an intersection of the roads, Shane Road, and I think it is Villamane Road.
Yes, Villamane Road, yes.
So it's near San Juan Mission, so on the south side. And anyway, so according to legend, there was a very tragic accident that took place there in the 1930s, or it could have been the 1940s. And there was a terrible collision between a school bus and a train. And apparently about 10 children died in this collision. And so very sad part of history in San Antonio. And ever since that incident, people started seeing and hearing all different kinds of strange activities. So they would see ghost children in that area, or they might hear children laughing, or children playing, or children crying or screaming, all different kinds of really eerie phenomena. And people found that if they drove over the tracks and they put their car into neutral, that their vehicles would be pushed to safety across the tracks, and usually they would find little handprints on the back of their vehicle as well.
Now, I do want to interrupt here real quick and say that this story is very lovingly covered in this book, Haunting America, The Truth Behind Some of America's Most Haunted Places, by who is that?
By Blake, by me.
Thank
you very much.
Highly recommend.
You've written a lot of stuff, but I really enjoyed this book in particular. I like the way you treated the different chapters and material. It's really good. So
thank you. Yeah, I like to, in the book, I go into the urban legends and the story, and then tend to debunk the stories, or to do an investigation and research and to find out the fact behind the fiction. So with this particular case, a lot of people go legend tripping to this site. That's exactly what Matt and I were doing as part of the investigation. And there's usually a bit of a kind of, not a traffic jam, but people really lined up to hit this spot and to see if this story is true. And people bringing baby powder, talcum powder, and sprinkling that on the back of their trucks and cars, because that enables you to see the little haunted hands on the back of the car afterwards a little bit better. So yeah, we went and tested this out, and that was good fun going there. But yeah, certainly a lot of people who were visiting, and we just got chatting with people there, and certainly some people had heard the laughter of children, or children crying, and all kinds of creepy things, and even seeing apparitions around there. So Matt and I didn't happen to see anything. And when we parked our car, we didn't actually have the experience, did we?
No, we didn't. And that was frustrating, because there were others that did. And we actually witnessed them doing it.
Oh, yeah.
And it was, so it was cool watching them. And let me see here. I'm going to share this photo here. This was a group of college age people that were having a great time, and they threw the powder all over the back of their cars so they could get the handprints going and everything. And they parked on the tracks, and within moments they were pushed right off of the tracks. Karen and I got on the tracks, and the ghost didn't care. We just sat there.
I think it's because we're skeptics, we don't tend to experience phenomena because of our negativity,
Yeah.
So it didn't make a big impression?
No, it did not.
Didn't. But it was still fun to go and have that experience. And so as
you can see some of the handprints here that show up really well.
Yeah, some people really do get a very strong encounter there. But as it turns out, that is actually a gravity spot. So like other areas around the country, I think there's, I can't think of where they're at. There's a couple in California, various places you can go to.
They're pretty common,
and it looks like it's flat, but there was a 2% gradient, I think, or
I think it's 5%.
5%. So
I could be wrong. I can't remember. But actually, I think when we talk about the news story associated with this, that they will tell us. So
yeah. So basically, looking into the story, there is no record of this event having taken place in San Antonio. So even though this story is really embedded into the folklore of San Antonio, there's just no records at all. However, there were two events that took place kind of straddled around that time frame.
We got one record here that we can show. What about this? What have you got to say about this?
So this was the San Antonio Express coverage of an event that happened back in 1938. And so this was, if you look at it here, it seems like it's actually something that took place in San Antonio, but this is actually coverage of an event that took place in Utah. So I think it was Jordan could be near Sandy in Utah.
Yeah.
And
It says Salt Lake City, but really, it's hard to say.
Yeah, I think, and
Because
that
it just has it
might
right
be a
down here.
suburb of that area or something.
Yeah.
But there were about 39 students who were traveling home from Jordan High School. And unfortunately, there was a collision between the school bus and a train, and 23 kids were killed.
You were right, Jordan.
Really, really tragic story.
Wow.
And so that happened at that time in 1938. And so there was coverage in San Antonio. And it seems like for some reason that story was transported there or transplanted there, which, Blake, you and I have seen a lot.
Transported.
Exactly. We've seen that happen a lot with urban legends. But
yes,
there is
a lot of
story,
transporting.
Yeah,
a lot of it. And there was another incident which took place in Colorado, and this was in 1961. And so this
feels like a classmates.com ad. Where are they now? But
yeah.
Well, sadly.
Yeah. So this was in a very, very small town called Evans, which is near Greeley, Colorado. And there was an accident that took place, as you can see here, December 14th, so right before Christmas, 1961.
Wow,
and,
that is so tragic. Oh my God.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, cases where families lost all of their children, parents lost their children, siblings lost siblings.
Yeah.
I mean, just really, really horrible events. And there were 20 kids who were killed and 17 who were injured. And actually from Delta School, Matt, I'm not sure if you're...
Yeah.
I don't think it exists anymore, but most of these kids were under the age of 12. So really, really tragic, very sad. But another event where the details seem to have been adopted by the events in, the non-events in San Antonio. So it's just interesting because to this day, there's actually a second part to this story too, which
we got more proof that it actually
you.
did happen. This is proof right here. Now, the thing is you see the little red, pin down there. That's where the haunted tracks are. That's the intersection. Mm-hmm. Now, this neighborhood at the time was being built, and they named some of the streets after some of the children that were killed in the accident. So that's proof that it happened there.
Yeah, very touching.
Hey, yeah. The Sandy, Utah case, this is true, or at least based on my reading. You know how now if you are behind a school bus and they come to a railroad track, they stop, they open the door and they listen before they cross?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's because of legislation passed because of the tragic deaths of these kids at Sandy.
Yep.
So so this case, not only did it spawn this urban legend, but spoilers. But it also, it's
great. Now no one believes this is true.
Forever affects the way buses are supposed to behave at these crossings. So that means this is
and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
No, for regard,
sure. Yeah.
But a very sad way to learn that lesson.
Well, look. So you've got these children's names here. Cindy Sue Way, for example. I'm going to use that as an example because there is a story also, and this completely proves that this is true. That there was a gentleman driving, and he sees this little girl on the side of the road needing a ride, and he gives her a ride. She lets him know where she lives, and he drives her. And all the way home, she starts getting really quiet. She doesn't want to go for some reason. He pulls up, and she doesn't want to get out of the car. And her name is Cindy Sue. So he goes out to talk to the parents, and he's like, I've got your daughter Cindy Sue in the car, and they get really, really angry and indignant with him because she was killed in this accident. If that's not proof, I don't know what is. And he goes back to the car and she's gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting to have that to conflate these urban legends, this tragedy, but also with the vanishing hitchhiker legend too.
Yeah.
They slip in everything they can here.
But as it turns out, these names, Cindy Sue Way or Cindy Sue and Nancy Carroll, Laurel Lee and Shane, the famous Shane, they're all the names of the children of the developers who did the I think town planning or development for this area, for this neighborhood. So that's where those names come from. They're not named after the children who died in an accident that didn't happen in San Antonio.
Okay, well, I
So,
got another one for you, Karen, because I'm not going to let this go so easily.
okay.
There was another thing that we experienced when we were there. When we, could not get our car to get pushed over the railroad tracks because they didn't like us, we suddenly could hear the screaming of children.
That is true. Yeah. And other people could as well. So told us about it.
So it might have
So
been because of this.
Yeah. So there's a nearby sports park, and we saw tons of kids there. I mean, there are a lot of memorials in the area too. People have left flowers and written RIP on the tracks, and
Wow.
even leaving letters for the children who perished in this accident that didn't happen. So I mean, people
Roses
really
and toys and
buy into this. And even though, I mean, this story has truly been debunked a lot over the years now. So I wrote about it in my book back in 2013, 2014. But a
so
lot
like
of
that
people
welcome
have,
to the home of no fear. I do like that.
yeah, it's very fitting. So this has really been thoroughly explained and debunked, and yet it persists. And there's an interesting little kind of end to the story. I guess not an end to the sightings and the experiences that people have. But Matt, you've got a little news story.
I do. Now, this this happened
Sorry.
in 2018. So if anyone that's watching, you can mention in the comment section if you've been to these railroad tracks since 2018 to let us know if it's still haunted, because they kind of supposedly took care of that. So let's see how they did it. As soon as I can find. Now, you guys will have to let me know as well if this video comes through for you.
Yeah.
Is shutting down temporarily on Monday. Union Pacific is adding a siding track that will go through here. A railroad spokesman said the project will change the elevation of the site and the phenomenon that's brought so many people there. As part of the work, the railroad is going to be adding gates and lights to the crossing as well. Whether or not there were any ghosts to begin with, they don't want any more.
Now, I do notice that man has a lot of consonants in his last name. So
He does.
can he be trusted?
Yeah. Good
When
point.
it comes to the news, we really bring it.
Oh, boy, but it's,
Yeah, what do you say?
It's fun because the site is listed on Google reviews and TripAdvisor as well. I think it's got 4-star review for the site.
It's like
and
artisanal. It's like, well, we're really disappointed.
Yeah.
They just really didn't do what they were supposed to do. Also, we sat for several hours without being served. And
well, there are a number of people who
My bacon was cold.
Yeah, a number of people debunking the legend, and a number of people swearing that they have had an experience, and that even if this is an urban legend, the place is still haunted. I mean, these are true believers. They still think that there's something going on. Maybe there's an event that took place that we're not aware of, but there are a lot of people who still think that there's something going on there and that they have had an experience. And they've seen it with their own eyes and heard it with their own ears, and really that's that.
do you think they just need more training?
A lot more training.
Now, this actually did spawn a movie. So I don't know if you guys knew about that.
2006 Fingerprints. Even the dead leave them. So this is based on the urban legend, and I've not seen this. I don't know if you guys have seen it at all.
No, never heard of this.
Tomato meter is not real high.
No.
Just so you know.
Not that surprised, but
I mean, I'm always, I love all kinds of movies. Great, good ones, bad ones, straight to video, blockbuster. It doesn't really matter. People try. But man, they better have brought a whole lot of extra stuff besides just that story, so yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, they've really woven more around the legends, but yeah, it just doesn't sound like it's a terribly good film, but
No,
kind of throwaway but interesting. I mean, it just seems like there is no stone unturned when it comes to these kinds of stories being turned into movies. Really, I think just about everything's been treated at some point
Well, you
But,
think that the little ghost kids would be like, oh, here's another one. They're going to, oh no, come on, there's a line of them. It's like,
Yeah.
what are these people doing? This is very disrespectful. This is very disrespectful. I'm pushing 15 more and that's it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And that's
Well,
why they stopped with us.
right.
even
were
though you
fed
have
up.
these stories which have been transported to San Antonio, I'm not aware of any ghost stories being attached to the locations of the true accidents in Utah and in Colorado. So,
Wow.
which is a good thing. But I
Well,
just think that
yeah. It would be a very poor taste, wouldn't it? Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. But I think the spots are just a little bit more off the beaten track, and therefore no one really
So to speak.
thinks about them. Yes, yeah. Oh, slipped up there. But I was going to tell one more quick story before we continue, and this is about a painting. Now, in a previous episode, we talked about curses, and Matt spoke about the crying boy painting. Do you remember that, Blake?
I do remember that. Yeah.
So this is another painting. This one's called The Hands Resist Him. So you might have seen this before. And yeah, it's kind of difficult to see there, but it features a young boy and there's a kind of creepy doll. So that's the artist. His name's Bill Stoneham, and he painted this in 1972.
Oh, wow.
And you can see all of these handprints on this kind of glass door behind him.
Was this commissioned for something? Because it looks like the cover of a horror novel or something. So, or is it just something?
It does. Yeah. But it's excuse me. It's not intended to be a haunting or anything like that, even though it is very creepy. So his explanation for this picture is that this is a door, which is the divide between the waking world and the world of fantasy. That's as he sees it. And for him, the other hands represent.
I think that one is next door. That door's next door. This is the door between reality and horror.
Yeah, it sure look. Yeah. I mean, my gosh,
it is creepy. Yeah, the doll and the hands. There's something very eerie about it. But this artwork went viral.
Stop.
Yeah. So this artwork went viral, even though it was painted back in 1972. In 2000, it appeared on eBay. And it was being sold, I think, for a couple of $100. But the owner said, I can't keep this painting anymore. It's haunted. It's cursed. I have to get rid of it. And they claimed that the painting would move around at night, that they had it hanging on the wall for a while, and then they took it down and it would move to different rooms. And they even swore that the little boy would leave the painting and he would try to escape the doll and the hands. That's how scared he was. And so anyway, there was in this listing for eBay, there was a disclaimer that the owner said, look, I'm absolved of any liability if anything happens, if you buy this artwork and something happens to you. So it was purchased by a gallery, I think. And the artist claims that I think that gallery owner and someone else, an art critic who criticized the artwork, that they both died within a year of coming into contact with the painting. So it sold for over $1,000, and it's just quite an infamous artwork now. But yeah, certainly creepy to look at.
Yeah,
very creepy. Yeah,
and haunted hands.
And who's going to wash those windows? Because I'm not going out there. So yeah.
No, it actually makes me think of that incident with you, Matt. I don't know if you want to bring that up with the children's hospital. Maybe it's a bit too. Because we didn't put any.
I didn't even think
content
about that.
warnings up. Yeah, well, it just made me think of that now.
So content warning. This show does discuss the death of children. You may not have caught that so far, but in an experience that I had investigating the Denver Children's Hospital as it was being torn down, I was in the morgue. And the offices attached to the morgue they are completely glass. And I'm not 100% sure why, because that means that they can sit at their desk and see autopsies taking place and things like that. Very bizarre. But let's just the main thing is in this room, in the morgue, there are no living children ever, and yet on the out on the glass looking into one of the offices, there were tiny handprints on the glass, and then two of them that slid down. And it haunts me, because the only thing that plays over in my mind is the fact that a lot of these people have to have a dark sense of humor to kind of get through the day when they're dealing with children's bodies. It's that they have to put themselves in a very odd place, I think, just to make it to the end of the day. And it seems like somebody was playing puppeteer to somebody on the other side of the glass.
I hope that's
I mean,
not
yeah,
true.
that's just a theory.
That's what the handprints that's the story they told. And it is just a horrifying thing to think about. But yeah. And I'm glad that I didn't think about it, because otherwise I would have had photos of the handprints, and I'm glad I don't have them. So
Yeah,
moving on. Let's move on to something fun and exciting. And another story. This one only has 10 murders in it, so this is a much better story. And
what a relief.
Yeah, this is another one that is talked about in Haunting America by Dr. Karen Stolzno. And that is Myrtles Plantation. Now, Myrtles Plantation, it's a fun one, because it's down in St. Francisville, Louisiana. And it's a very cool old plantation. It's famous because of a photo, and let me bring this up here a little bit. This photo, it shows supposedly the ghost right here of Chloe, the enslaved woman who ended up murdering accidentally the wife and child of the owner of the plantation. And this is the only photo of her ghost, which is not entirely true, because here is another photo of her ghost. That's actually a photo of Karen playing the ghost. But so we were just trying to look to see how close that was to the size of an actual human. And it does show that that is sort of the size and shape of a possible human. But there's also, if you guys can see my pointer, I'm not sure. Right in this area, there's a whole bunch of things piled up, because there's actually nothing there. That's kind of a walkway.
A breezeway. Yeah.
It's a breezeway. Yeah. So there's a bunch of things right here, and this could be part of those things. And it's actually not a person at all. That's what we think happened. But one of the wonderful stories here at the Myrtles Plantation is of this mirror. Let me see if I can get a different picture of the mirror here to show you guys, because the word is that there are ghosts stuck inside of this mirror, and you can see their handprints. Now, this thing is when Chloe accidentally killed the mother and two children, actually was what it was. They were supposed to cover all of the mirrors with black cloth during the funeral ceremony, so none of their spirits would get trapped in the mirror. Somehow, this mirror, the main one in the house, was not covered, and lo and behold, you can see the handprints, the haunted handprints in the mirror, and it's absolutely terrifying. Now,
where for, like, just pretend for a minute I can't see them. Where are they?
Oh, you're kidding me. You're kidding me.
No,
it is absolutely obvious. There's no pareidolia here. Okay, so can you see this, me drawing this circle right here?
Yeah.
This looks like a
Do you
claw.
see these digits right here? Yeah. And there's another one. There's another one down here. Yeah, don't play with me here. This is serious.
What are those vertical lines? Is that the
can we not talk to you anymore?
Don't ask
because
questions.
if you're just going to bring up stuff that doesn't even matter, I mean, geez. Now here's a more of a close up of the main handprint. Now this handprint they've tried to clean it off. They've tried to clean it so many times, and it just will not clean. They've had the glass replaced, which, doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, because if you're replacing the glass, you're replacing the mirror.
Yeah.
And yet the handprint remains. Now, there are some problems with this story. And let me see if I can explain one or two of them to you. That mirror wasn't there. That mirror's not original to the house.
It's an 18th century house, and a lot has been built onto it, and none of the furniture
20th century
there,
mirror.
yeah, none of the furniture there is original.
Yeah. Now the thing is I recognize the mirror because I bought a mirror identical to that years ago at a place that was originally called McFrugal's, and the name got changed to Big Lots, and so you might be familiar with it.
I am.
And I bought that mirror there, and it is cheap. It's just a very cheap mirror. I think it cost me $10. And that's the mirror that they have hanging there. I don't know when they bought it because it looked like it may have been a little older, like in the 70s, 80s. I'm guessing 80s is when they put that there. But this is common. I also did an investigation of the Bullock Hotel in Deadwood, South Dakota.
Oh, by the way, how big was that handprint? I mean, like it looked like it was high up.
Hand-sized?
Yeah,
It was hand-sized. Okay.
Yeah. Because the mirror's not that big. It looks grand, but it's not that big. But there is a mirror in Deadwood, the Bullock Hotel, and this is the mirror here. Antique mirror, very, very old. And if you hit it at the right angle, you could see ghost writing in the mirror. Here is an example of some of the things you could see in the mirror.
Looks like an atheist.
Well,
it does.
And the ghost was very interested in being getting the center square for tic-tac-toe. But so I had a sneaking suspicion. And when it was really late and no one was looking, I took the mirror apart. It's not an antique mirror. It was from Walmart. And those lines are the lines of the glue that they squirted on to hold the backing on.
Wow.
To the mirror. But you could only see it in certain light. And if you were walking up the stairs, this was at the top of the stairs, then you could see these. Now, this is not the only thing in the Bullock Hotel that was supposedly antique that I dismantled to find out that it actually wasn't. Kind of goes to show that this type of thing is not all that uncommon for them to try to replace stuff with period-looking pieces, and then that's reasonable to kind of restore the look of the place.
Shabby chic, yeah.
But then
I'll say this: I bought
a legend.
I have a $6 mirror from Walmart, and it's my favorite mirror in the whole house because it's like a funhouse mirror. And when I stand in front of it, I look about 30 pounds lighter. And that's well worth the $6.
Always handy. Yes.
Never getting rid of that thing. So
Yep. I know exactly what you mean.
I'd love to mount it on the ceiling in my bedroom because I'd be like, yeah, look at me. I'm like,
moving on.
Manscaped. All right.
So this is in a mansion that was for sale in Colorado Springs.
Ooh.
And you can see just to the lower left of the flash on the camera there, you can see that very scary demonic handprint.
Oh, yeah.
That they had tried to wash off multiple times. There's a closer view of it. And then, right
I
there,
see faces back there too.
Creepy dude right there.
Very creepy.
What is going on with that? That's
much creepier than the hand. Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is mirrors do have a habit of having some issues when it comes to this kind of distress is I guess the way I'll put it. And the thing is, if you're going to be messing with the back of the mirror at all, and a lot of them have like a paper backing on them or something like that. If you remove that paper backing and you touch the silvering, and if your hand, if you're like working at a place and say you have to take the mirror down and you're doing a lot of work, maybe your hands are dirty and maybe you're a little sweaty, the oils on your fingers are going to mess up the silvering. And especially with that Myrtles one, that's exactly what happened. And they've now just baked it into the story. So it's unfortunate that, that's all it is. But you can go online and get, instructions on how to distress your mirrors to make them look older. It's not a real big deal, but if you want to put some haunted hands in your mirrors, now you know how to do it.
We should do that. That would be fun to replicate, I think, just to prove the point.
I think we absolutely should. I think we should.
Yeah.
Definitely. So I'm going to see if
Okay.
there's anything else here that I need to mention
Well, yeah,
before
we
moving
should.
on.
Yeah, I mean, we can have some honorable mentions at the end, I guess, but we need to get onto Blake's story.
Yes.
So I wanted to talk about the hairy hands, and you'll sometimes hear them called the hairy hands of Dartmoor, the hairy hands of Devon. They are this story comes from the southwest part of England, in a big Dartmoor National Park, and this is sort of, from what I can see, I've not actually been there, but these are sort of hauntingly bleak moors, like, you know, it's just sort of like flat or rolling hills, but like with grasslands. I've never, you know, like I say, I've never been to England, but in
Like something out of Wuthering Heights.
yeah, that's the way I picture it anyway. Obviously I picture it very haunted landscape because it always shows up in scary storybooks and you know, haunting stories and folklore and legends.
You mean like this one?
Well, this is the book that I first read about it. This is from one of my heroes, Daniel Cohen, who introduced me to many monsters.
That you'd never heard of.
Many that I'd never heard of. So this was in 1986. I remember my local library had this. I was always, man, I read a lot of books, but I would, we were a poor family. So I would, like, the library was one of my big forms of entertainment. I'd walk over and check out 2 or 3 books and, you know, read them on the way home and whatever. So I love libraries, huge fan. Daniel Cohen was actually one of the founding members of Psychop. And so he was a longtime skeptic, but he also loved monsters and wrote story, you know, lots of children's books and young adult books about these kinds of scary, spooky topics. So this one had a chapter in it about the hairy hands, and I was just fascinated. So I'm going to tell you, like, the way I remember it, and I'm going to throw in some details from some of the coverage, but basically the way I remember reading it, it was, and I'll know for sure soon. I've ordered the book. I don't actually have a copy of this because I'd read it in the library, and something brought it to mind recently. And that's why I was bringing it up with you guys for talking about monsters' hands and hand-related horror. But it's a story about people who are driving through this one area of this, you know, rural and haunting and empty landscape when they lose control of their vehicles and crash. There were multiple crashes like this, most of them not fatal, but a few of them famously fatal. And when the survivors reported, you know, that the person driving had spoken or screamed probably about hands had taken control of the wheel, unseen hands had taken, you know, like they couldn't control the vehicle. And these vehicles were usually motor cars, sometimes motorcycles, and even the occasional horse-drawn vehicle, because this was between 1910 and 1920 in that zone. And what I found interesting about it at the time was there's no real explanation for it. It's just, if you're going through this region, you might want to be super careful because maybe a pair of disembodied hands would try to seize control of your vehicle. Now, this was actually covered in the Daily Mail newspaper. And what I found interesting about this is when I went to try to dig up some stuff about this, several things came up. One is, here's a little entry from a book called, hold on just a second, but it is called Sutton Companion to Folklore, Myths, and Customs of Britain. And it's got a little entry called The Hairy Hands of Dartmoor. And it says, a latter-day piece of folklore in West County of England, the hairy hands of Dartmoor first came to public attention in 1921 when the medical officer of the Dartmoor prison was riding his motorcycle along a moorland road between 2 bridges in Postgate. Those are 2 towns in the area. He had 2 children in the sidecar, and as he followed the road down a hill to where a little bridge crosses the East Dart, suddenly he suddenly shouted to them to jump clear. They managed to fling themselves onto the grass, and the motorcycle continued down the hill. The doctor appeared to be wrestling with the handlebars before the machine swerved off the road, and he was killed. Several months later, another motorcyclist returned to his home in a dazed condition on a badly damaged machine. He said that he was riding towards the bridge over the East Dart, and he felt a pair of hairy hands close over his own handlebars, forcing him to steer off the road. He remembered nothing else until he regained consciousness on the spot where the doctor had died. In the years that followed, the invisible hairy hands were blamed for causing various accidents by seizing motorcycle handlebars or steering wheels of cars and forcing them to crash. And these stories continued on up until the 1970s. And I was trying to sort of get to the bottom of like, where did this come from? Like, why is this happening? But then I found that this had been covered by one of the people we talk about a lot on Monster Talk, Charles Fort. And he, in his last book, which is called Wild Talents. Now, if you're not familiar with Fort, he was a person who collected all kinds of stories about odd and mysterious things. And I think he thought that the world was far more mysterious than the authorities or the academics or, people wanted you to be aware of. And so I don't think it ever occurred to him that maybe people, made stuff up. So that being said, what we have here is this is an entry from Wild Talents. So it says, in the Daily Mail, October 14th, 1921, a writer, T. Gifford, tells of a scene of accidents at a point on a road in Dartmoor. The story is like an account of the series of accidents to automobiles in England in April and May of 1927, except the accidents were strictly localized. The story told by Gifford is that one day in June of 1921, a doctor riding on his motorcycle with his two children in a sidecar, suddenly at this point on the Dartmoor Road, called to his children to jump. The machine swerved and the doctor was killed. Several weeks later, at this place, a motor coach suddenly swerved and several passengers were thrown out. Upon August 26, 1921, a Captain M, for whom I apologize, it's not often that Mr. X of a Captain M appears in these records, was at this point on the road thrown from his motorcycle. Interviewed by Gifford, he told after evasions that something described by him as invisible hands had seized upon his hands, forcing the machine into the turf. Now, what's interesting there is this is Charles Fort repeating a story from the Daily Mail. And the Daily Mail story isn't literal news coverage, I don't think. It sounds like it's a story by this guy, T. Gifford, talking about something that he's heard about or investigated. And I suddenly found myself wondering if this Daily Mail news story is not, news. Maybe it's one of those interesting stories from Dartmoor kind of stories. Like a lot of flags are being triggered here that this is not literally true. Now, if you search for it on the web now, what you find is a lot of people retelling the story of all these car accidents. Very few of them attributing it to the Daily Mail. But all of Charles Fort's wording here makes me suspect that what we're looking at is more of I'm going to say possibly fictional narrative, or at least stretching the truth narrative. And I'm wondering if there's ever actually anything going on at all. I really am curious about this now. So I have not been able to dig to the bottom of this, but man, does this story have lots of those kind of, this is folklore, this is not real flags to it. So I'm going to continue to do research on this. I've ordered Daniel Cohen's book, which he always has, where his sources come from. And I tried to get online to some British newspaper archives to get the original Daily Mail story, but I wasn't able to find it digitally. So I have access to some additional research resources, which I can get to later this week. And I am very excited about that. So
maybe we can go into more depth with this story for a regular podcast episode.
Yeah, because if I'm right about this, and I'm not saying that I am, I'm still definitely in investigation mode. It would be really cool to get to the bottom of it and say definitively, this is not real. But it would also be interesting if it turns out that the characters involved are real people who died. I wasn't able to dig up their obituaries and stuff. Some of them are named, some of them are not. So.
Well, I think it's interesting to hear about the descriptions of the road. It sounds like it was going down a hill, and it could have been windy. So if this did happen, I don't know if the conditions are mentioned, but if it was raining, as it often is in England, it sounds like it could be a really slippery and dangerous kind of area.
It did.
That doesn't account for the hairy hands, though.
No. Well, and again, most of the stories, they don't literally have hairy hands. Like most of the stories have unseen hands or something's trying to force me off the road. But because a few of the stories have a mention of I felt hairy hands grabbing my own, trying to turn the wheel, that kind of thing. Right. That's very evocative. It's very creepy. And, if you're hearing this story recounted while you're driving alone at night down some dark country road, it's super creepy. I've heard it covered on a few podcasts here and there, and it can be quite a scary story. Of course, they always want to know, where does it come from? So like one of the podcasts that covered it tried to tie it back to an escaped American prisoner from the War of 1812 who was in the prison in Dartmoor and escaped, but then got killed in a cart accident. And so I don't know. I think that's
and
a bit
then
of
waited
a
100 years.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. Yes, a century later. Oh, this won't do. I've got to stop these motor vehicles. They're making my whole ghostly experience very noisy and unsettling. So yeah, I think
it's interesting that nothing's happened since the 1970s too, because as we often find with these things, that people continue to have sightings and experiences, and so that street might not even exist. I guess you'll find out more.
They've straightened part of it out. I know that happened.
Okay.
Yeah, it's someone's asking in the chat. It's October 1921 was the source of the story. June of 1921, Dr. E.H. Helby is named in some of the versions. So I think a lot of this is coming from the Daily Mail, and I'm just really curious as to whether there's actually anything to this. And I want to find out. This is going to be a fun investigation. So
it sounds like you've got a street and you've got a name. So I think you've got a few things to look into, and we should definitely pick this up again when we find out some more info, or don't. Absolutely.
So, hands come up in so much horror and folklore. I was thinking about in some of the pop culture stuff, the hands of Orlok and Mad Love are both kind of variations on the story about someone getting their hands cut off and replaced with the hands of someone else. And variations on that have the hands taking control of people. They did an episode like that in the TV show Night Gallery, where the hands basically turned a normal person into a serial killer because his replacement hands were the hands of a killer. And
nice.
They've got the disembodied hands. Obviously, you've got Thing, exactly from the Addams Family, and of course, one of my personal favorites is the Hand of Ash in Evil Dead 2, which takes on an almost Three Stooges life of its own.
Yeah, how often have we seen that shtick of the hand being possessed, and they're like,
exactly. Yes,
that shtick has been done so many times.
As a parent, I used to terrorize my daughters by starting to leave their room and going to turn the light out, and suddenly bringing my own hand around the corner of the door and choking myself out. Oh, so good, so good.
Father of the year.
Sick. So what is this Manos Hands of Fate thing? Because when I started advertising this show, we absolutely had to raise this, because I've had so many people saying, "Are you going to be talking about Manos?" And what the hell is Manos?
Okay, so Manos, Hands of Fate is a Texas horror film. It's about like a vacationing couple and their daughter who get off the main road and end up at the house of a cultist who has a cult of crazy dancing women, and has a servant with giant knees named Torgo who talks as though he's had a mild stroke. Bless his heart. And so it in the best of times, it's a terrible movie, but the Mystery Science Theater 3000 did one of their most famous episodes about this. So
they gave it new life. They really did.
They really did. Well, they really did. They really did. It became this. The internet existed, but it, not like now. But even then it went viral, and people were sharing. People made screensavers of Torgo. People made remixes of the theme music, which is
Wow.
Maybe Matt could stick some of the theme music in for when we go like put this up online. I don't know, but it's like,
yeah.
it's really, really something. So it's something that I don't know if people enjoy it. They survive it. It's more of an endurance test because it's such a bad film.
It's a badge of
Wow.
honor.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like MST 3000, that this is one of those things where like we've all come through this trauma together. So like, that's what binds us together. It's like we survived it, and we can comfort each other. We can tell jokes about it, but it's not something I really want to ever see again. I mean,
MST 3000 did a fantastic job, I think, of making unwatchable movies watchable.
Yeah, frequently.
And that's what was so great about it, is they made these terrible things so much fun to watch.
I love seeing my kids watch these old things because they aged very well. And they've also been enjoying the Riff Tracks live events. We've been able to do a few of those. And it's just, I was like always worried, are my kids going to get it? Do they like this? Oh, they love it. It's great. It's great. So,
well, I'm glad that we mentioned this anyway, because we had a lot of requests for it.
Yeah, in the chat, someone pointed out they did an HD remaster of the film. This is true. You can get a Blu-ray version of Manos Hands of Fate, and that's to see it as the Lord intended in glorious high def.
Did that come out?
So, is there any
the worst year of all time, 2020 or something? I mean,
it's part of the apocalypse. I'm sure it was foretold in the scripture. So
no true story behind it then, that we could do a episode based on a true story?
I'm afraid not. I mean, it is an interesting story about how it got put together. Like a lot of these indie films, a person has a dream and $10,000 or $15,000 that they probably should have put towards the mortgage, and they do this instead.
Well, we got to mention in there. So, I mean, I'm sure that there are lots of other stories that we're forgetting. Did we mention
the
Poltergeist
hook-handed killer? I mean, that when you were telling the story about the guy, basically the Resurrection Mary version, or the ghost. What's the other name for it? The ghost
Vanishing Hitchhiker.
Vanishing Hitchhiker.
I was like, I thought what would make that story perfect is he went back to the car and she was gone, and all that was left was a hook hanging on the door. Right, just start mashing all your folklore together. So
absolutely. Well, I mean, I just think hands are, if you're going to talk about hands, and they're creepy anyway, in the best of times. But when you start talking about ghostly hands and everything, I mean, what was it when you were a little kid and you had to get from your light switch to your bed without the hand coming out and grabbing you? Right.
And why is that like such a universal thing? I mean, I don't know any kids that weren't afraid of hands coming out front of the bed to get them. And I don't know about you guys, but I was always too fat to get into there and really mess my kids up for life. So
fortunately,
but I mean, it was like such a visceral, a visceral fear that there was something under the bed that was going to grab me, Yeah. And I think
we all learned to jump long distances,
Yeah. And they played with, I think, was it The Conjuring where they played with that idea of like the girl looking under the bed, and that it's just, and I think even in The Sixth Sense, there's the scene where the little ghost girl is under the bed. And I was like, even though she's not a bad character, she's a good ghost.
Scares the crap out of you.
But it still scares the crap out of me. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think it's the implements and the tools that can choke people or scratch people or carry an axe or machete or something else. So I do think that it's going to be a common theme in horror. But did we mention Poltergeist, Matt? You were going to mention?
Oh well, yeah. I mean, even
scene.
Steven Spielberg using his hands to tear the flesh off the face of I can't remember the guy's name now. We talked about him so much.
Scene.
When he's ripping his face off. Steven Spielberg wanted his hands to be the ones. It is an interesting thing.
Dario Argento, as a director, famously, whenever there's a killer wearing gloves, it's always Dario doing the killing. Yeah. So he would always be the stunt hands for the killer, which I thought was very interesting.
Now, Blake, did you ever see Student Bodies?
I don't think so. I definitely saw the VHS case in the back in the day. But
let me just say, if you can Get it and watch it. It
Okay.
is one of the best horror movie spoofs.
Oh, that's the one with the Seth Green.
Uh-huh.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, no, I have not seen it, but I know the film you're talking about. Yeah. So they
Yeah, it
play
is-
with that trope, I guess. So-
Well, the murderer, you see only his hands in the frame coming towards people. It's like point at the like kind of a POV thing. And it's very funny. It really is. I don't know. I mean, the thing is, it was funny when I was 13. So
Well,
I'm going to leave
Yeah,
it right there at the door. But
Maybe.
but yeah, I mean,
There's-
when I was making images for advertising, when I was doing the seances, one of the images is me sitting there, kind of looking to the side as there's a shadow of this ghostly hand tapping me on the shoulder.
Mhm.
And even though, I made it that way, it was creepy to look at later. See this shadow hand, tapping me on the shoulder with no actual hand. So yeah, as a hands are a creepy thing, no doubt.
Indeed, they
Yeah.
are. And I think we need to think about our next episode of Monster Talk Live. And,
I'm thinking, by the way, I'm thinking of Idle Hands with Seth Green, not Student Body. Sorry.
oh,
Okay.
But-
Yeah. I don't know who I was thinking of then. I can't remember any actors in that movie now that you mention it, because I think they were all kind of.
But it's
So
81.
what-
Yeah. I don't, no idea.
Some of them might have gone on to do something, but at the time they were all no names. So.
Well, but they were all doing their best. That's what
Yes.
matters. They're doing their best.
yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
the movie, so they did something right.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I was thinking about this, what we should do for our next one. I was thinking about it. I had come across this wonderful story about this possessed nun who wrote a letter from the devil. The devil wrote a letter to the rest of the nuns through her.
Okay.
And
Oh,
thought
Spirit
that-
writing
she
kind of thing.
channeled a note from the devil.
yes, and it was just recently translated. 70% of it was translated.
Okay.
And it actually is pretty demonic. And that was, a fairly recent thing. And I thought, for our resident linguist, that would be a fantastic story for her to cover. And both she and I have been witness to multiple exorcisms, and thought just one on possession might be a very interesting topic. So I don't know if there was something you would
think
want to
so.
talk about in terms of possession.
I like possession stories. We, if we want to work on one case or
Any of
whatever,
them.
yeah.
Yeah, we can do one each, I think, as we've been doing. And
And yeah, I mean, and even with that, we should probably look at the exorcism of Emily Rose for a future dose as well.
We should.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep.
That's, I mean, and of course it's a dark, true story behind that, but
Yeah.
and I think an important one. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot
agree.
there to cover. And we should also let everyone know that we've just released an episode of Based on a True Story, and that's Annabelle. So go and check that out when this show's over. And we've got another one coming out soon too,
Yep.
which
yes,
is
we do.
Yeah. What did we do after that? We did
The entity. Yeah.
The entity.
Yes.
Yes.
The
Yes,
long-awaited
we request
entity.
for that.
Yes.
Yes.
I did a little bit of blocking out on
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
Um,
No. Again,
I think we do a pretty good job
Yeah.
of covering that and
trying to be
talking
as
about
sensitive
that
as
and-
possible.
We
Yeah,
did.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
graphic.
lots of trigger warnings and woof,
Mhm.
what a film. That was what a story. But we did it. We got through it.
Yeah.
So like Manos Hands of Fate, we managed to get through it. So
Just Entity was a much better film.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I hate to admit it,
Yes,
but
I
yeah.
So yeah.
But
But we did get we managed to, as we do, manage to bash the Warrens a bit. So
Yes, that's true. That's true.
as long, you
easy
can
to
count
do,
on
lots
us for
of-
that.
fodder there for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we want to thank everyone for joining us tonight or today, this morning, whatever part of the world that you're in. And yeah, this was our Halloween episode. So we want to wish everyone a happy Halloween. And certainly we're going to have some episodes of regular Monster Talk podcast coming out too, more based on a true story. So, and some more Ask a Paranormal Investigator coming out soon, I hear.
Yep. I resolved some computer issues that I was running into, and I'm done with my leave of absence. So I'll be jumping back into those. And everybody, if you like this video, definitely click the like button, hit subscribe, comment below if you have heard that the ghosts from the San Antonio railroad tracks are still there, or let us know. We don't know after
Or
that
if there are
construction.
other haunted hand stories that you can think of too.
Absolutely.
We
Yeah,
can
let us know.
mention in a future episode.
And visit us on www.patreon.com/monster talk. If
Please
you'd
do.
like to
Yeah,
get
so-
some, yeah, you can get some insider stuff there that Blake will keep you abreast of there. So
I watched a lot of Bigfoot movies.
Rude
so
words.
was that- yeah, and bad words. That's true.
Yeah.
More
But-
cussing and more Bigfoot. That's what we need. So yeah.
But we really do appreciate your support, and yeah, we've
Absolutely.
got lots of fun stuff coming up, and yeah, we hope that you enjoyed tonight's show.
Thank you very much.
Have a great